I need that money now. Her dowry is the only thing that can save us. You cannot just sell her off like this. I did what I must. I never would have married otherwise.
The Duke married her because his estate was dying. Everyone in the county knew it. Hawthorne Hall had stood for 200 years on the northern edge of Wiltshire * with its grey stone towers, old rose gardens, and windows that caught the winter light like pieces of cold glass *. People still slowed their carriages when they passed the gates. Not because Hawthorne was prosperous, but because it was famous. And famous houses are often mistaken for living ones. Long after they have begun to rot from within, Duke Sebastian Hawthorne was 34 years old when he married Lady Clara Whitmore *. He was handsome, respected, and nearly ruined *. His father had left behind debts dressed as investments, empty accounts dressed as tradition, and a title heavy enough to crush any man who mistook inheritance for competence *. By the winter of 1818, the servants had gone 3 months without full wages. The tenant farms were threatening to leave. And the London creditors had become polite in the terrible way men become polite before they destroy you. Clara arrived with a dowry large enough to stop the bleeding. That was why he married her. Not love, not desire, not even hope. A transaction. Everyone knew it. Clara knew it best of all at the altar. Sebastian did not look at her when he said, "I do." His eyes rested somewhere beyond her shoulder, fixed on the stained glass window behind the priest, as though the words were a duty to be survived, rather than a promise to be kept. Clara stood beside him in ivory silk, her gloved hands folded around a bouquet of winter roses, and listened to the whispers moving through the pews. Like mice behind walls, she saved him. Her father bought her a duchy. At least Hawthorne will survive. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Sebastian bowed over her hand and kissed her glove with the courtesy one gives a contract after signing it. Clara smiled, not because she was happy, because she had been raised never to let strangers know where the knife entered. If you enjoy emotional romance stories about arranged marriage, silent sacrifice, heartbreak, regret, and love that arrives almost too late, subscribe to this channel and stay with Clara until the end. The first thing Clara learned after arriving at Hawthorne Hall was that poverty in an old house does not announce itself loudly. It hides beneath polished silver, behind heavy curtains, under carpets too beautiful to replace. The chandeliers still glittered, but 2 of them had missing crystals. The servants still bowed, but their coats were worn shiny at the elbows. The dining room still seated 30, but the pantry could barely feed 10 without credit. From a grocer who had stopped smiling, Sebastian showed her to her rooms himself. They were large, cold, and beautiful. A fire had been laid but not lit. "You should tell Mrs. Bell if anything is missing," he said. Clara looked at the empty grate. "Is firewood missing, Your Grace?" His jaw tightened slightly. "The household has been managing expenses." "I see." He looked uncomfortable, as if she had stepped too quickly past the polite fiction. "This marriage was necessary. I understand it may not be what you wished." "No," Clara said gently. "I imagine it is exactly what everyone wished, just not for the reasons they pretend." For the first time, he looked at her fully. There was intelligence in his eyes, pride, 2 and exhaustion so deeply buried that most people would have mistaken it for coldness. "I will not ask affection from you," he said. The words should have relieved her. They did not, "and I will not perform it." Clara replied, "Then we understand each other." "Yes, she said, though she already suspected they did. Noten the weeks that followed, Clara discovered Hawthorne's true condition piece by piece, not because Sebastian told her. He rarely told her anything. She found it in unpaid invoices tucked beneath correspondence, in the housekeeper's careful pauses, in the steward's refusal to meet her eyes when she asked about tenant repairs. The estate was not merely strained asterisk, it was collapsing with elegance. Sebastian attended to matters when required, but always from a distance, as though touching the problem directly might make it more shameful. He signed papers, received bankers asterisk, spoke of restructuring with a gentleman's vocabulary and a desperate man's ignorance. Asterisk. Clara listened from the edge of rooms where people assumed she was decorative. Then, one morning, she stopped assuming. Permission was required. She asked Mrs. Bell for the household ledgers asterisk. The housekeeper hesitated. Only once before bringing them asterisk. Clara spent 3 nights reading by candlelight until the numbers arranged themselves into a story no one had been brave enough to say aloud. Asterisk. Hawthorne could survive, but not if everyone kept treating dignity as more important than honesty. By spring, changes had begun. The London townhouse was quietly leased to a diplomat. 2 useless carriages were sold. The racing horses, which Sebastian's father had loved more than arithmetic, were reduced to 1 asterisk. The tenant roofs were repaired before the ballroom ceiling asterisk. Wages were paid before wine was ordered asterisk. Clara renegotiated 3 accounts, dismissed 1 dishonest agent asterisk, and wrote to her father's solicitor for terms that would protect her dowry from being swallowed whole by Hawthorne's old debts. She did all of it without drama. That was her gift. She could move mountains as if she were merely arranging flowers. The servants noticed first, then the tenants, then the creditors asterisk. By midsummer, men who had once addressed their letters to the Duke began addressing them to the Duchess as well asterisk. Sebastian noticed that, though he said nothing at dinner, he remained polite in public. He was courteous in private. He was almost kind. Almost. That was the cruelty of it. A cruel man can be hated cleanly asterisk. A cold, decent man gives hope just often enough to make leaving feel like ingratitude. Clara learned Sebastian's habits asterisk. He rose early, wrote alone, drank coffee without sugar, and read in the library when the house grew too quiet. He disliked Lily because his mother had died in a room filled with them asterisk. He avoided the West Garden because his father had once struck him there in front of a groom asterisk. He kept every letter from his younger brother asterisk, who had died at 21 in Portugal, tied with black ribbon in the lowest drawer of his desk. He never told her these things. She learned them by loving him quietly. That was the problem. No one had asked her to love him, certainly not Sebastian, but love, Clara discovered, does not always wait for invitation asterisk. Sometimes it grows in the spaces between duty and tenderness asterisk. In the way he once placed his coat over her shoulders during a cold ride and forgot he had done it asterisk. In the way he lowered his voice when she was tired asterisk. In the way he looked at Hawthorne Hall, not like a man proud of owning it, but like a boy terrified of being the one to lose it. She loved him before she meant to. He remained grateful there. Are few words more painful than gratitude when what one longs for is loved? 2 years passed asterisk. Hawthorne changed the gardens, revived the tenants stayed. The servants laughed again in the kitchens. Creditors stopped visiting and began writing with respect asterisk. Invitations returned asterisk. Society, which had once pitied Sebastian Hawthorne for needing a wealthy wife, asterisk, began praising him for restoring the family estate. Sebastian accepted the praise with discomfort. Clara accepted the silence beside it. One evening in late autumn, Hawthorne hosted its first proper dinner in years asterisk. 24 guests filled the dining room. Candles burned in silver branches. The repaired chandeliers glittered overhead asterisk. Mrs. Bell cried in the pantry before the soup course because she said the house sounded alive. Again Clara wore deep green silk asterisk. Sebastian noticed. She knew because his hand paused on the back of his chair when she entered. "You look well," he said. "Not beautiful, not dear, well. Thank you, Your Grace." Something crossed his face. He hated when she used the title now. Once it had kept distance between them asterisk. Now it reminded him that the distance remained after dinner. The men took port in the library asterisk. Clara went to the passage near the conservatory to speak with Mrsbell about tomorrow's breakfast arrangements asterisk. The library door was not fully closed. She heard Sebastian's voice inside. Then Lord Edmund Fairfax had been Sebastian's closest friend since school, and the only person bold enough to ask him questions other people swallowed. "You must know what people say." Edmund said, "I really find people worth listening to. They say the Duchess saved Hawthorne." A pause. "She did." Sebastian said. Clara stood still. "Then perhaps you might consider looking happier about it." Another pause. "Longer this time. I am grateful to her." Grateful. Clara closed her eyes. Edmund's voice softened asterisk. "Sebastian, do not begin. I am only asking whether gratitude is all." Silence followed in that silence. Clara felt the last fragile part of her hope lift its head then. Sebastian answered, "She deserved a husband who married her for more than money asterisk. I cannot repair that by pretending to feel what I do not." The words were not cruel. That made them worse. Had he mocked her, she might have grown angry. Had he lied, she might have hated him. But he had spoken with sad honesty, and there was nothing to fight inside the truth. Clara walked away before Edmund could answer. She did not cry that night asterisk. She sat at her desk, opened the household ledger, and corrected a column where the dairy income had been entered twice asterisk. Her hand was steady. That was when she knew. Not at the altar, not in the cold bedroom, not through 2 years of being thanked instead of loved that night. A woman can live a long time, but not forever. 3 weeks later, Clara's father died. The news arrived on a gray morning with rain dragging silver lines down the library windows asterisk. Sebastian found her standing beside the desk, the letter open in her hand. "Clara." She looked at him. "My father is gone for once." His face changed without restraint. "I am sorry." "I know." He crossed the room as though he meant to take her hand, then stopped before touching her asterisk. That hesitation told her everything her grief had known. Cared, but not enough to forget himself. Her father left her 3 things. Asterisk. A small seaside house in Devon, an independent income separate from her marriage settlement, asterisk, and a letter written in his difficult beloved hand. "My dear Clara," it said, "if you have built a life where you are cherished, stay asterisk. If you have built one where you are useful, come home to yourself." She read that sentence so many times the paper softened at the fold by winter. Her decision was made. She did not announce it. She arranged it quietly. As she arranged everything, the tenant protections were secured, the household accounts balanced for 6 months. The steward received instructions. Mrs. Bell wept when Clara told her, but promised not to speak until the day came. That day was their 3rd wedding anniversary. Sebastian returned late from London, expecting the house to be asleep. Instead, he found the dining room lit. 2 places had been set. The candles were low. The soup had gone cold asterisk. Clara's chair was empty. On his plate lay a letter. For several seconds, he only stared at it. Then he opened it. "Sebastian, I have spent 3 years helping Hawthorne live. I do not regret it. I have loved the tenants, the servants, even the stubborn old stones of this house asterisk. I have loved you too, though you never asked me to, and perhaps never wished me to asterisk. But I cannot spend the rest of my life being useful where I long to be loved asterisk. By the time you read this, I will be on the road to Devon. Please do not come after me for Hawthorne. Hawthorne has had enough of me asterisk. If you come, come only when you know the difference between gratitude and love." Sebastian sat down slowly. The room around him seemed suddenly unfamiliar asterisk. The candles, the repaired ceiling, the polished table, the steady warmth of a house saved from ruin asterisk. He saw all of it at once, and for the first time saw that none of it had returned because of him. Mrs. Bell found him there an hour later with the letter still in his hand. "Where is she?" He asked. The housekeeper had served Hawthorne for 30 years asterisk. She knew when a master required truth more than comfort. "Gone, Your Grace. I can see that. No, Mrs. Bell said, her voice trembling. I mean, she has been going for a long while. You are only noticing tonight. The word struck him harder than the letter in the days that followed. Sebastian began reading. Not novels, not newspapers, asterisk, ledgers, letters, contracts, asterisk, every page. Clara had left behind. He found her handwriting everywhere in margins, in instructions and corrections, in appeals written to creditors who had refused him but trusted her, asterisk. He found receipts for wages paid from her private allowance, asterisk. Notes to tenants whose children had been ill, asterisk. A list of repairs she had delayed in her own rooms so the East cottages could have new roofs before winter. He found the life she had built while he was busy feeling sorry for the life he had lost by the end of the week. Love arrived not like lightning, like shame turning into understanding, like memory becoming unbearable, like 100 small kindnesses gathering into one truth. He loved her, and he had learned it in the silence she left behind. Sebastian went to Devon in January, asterisk, not with a carriage full of servants or a letter demanding his wife return, asterisk. He went alone, riding through sleet with one small bag and Clara's letter folded inside his coat. The seaside house was modest, white-walled and wind-battered, standing above a narrow strip of gray beach. Clara opened the door herself, asterisk. She wore a plain wool dress, her hair unpinned by the wind, asterisk, and for one cruel, beautiful second, Sebastian thought she looked more at home than she had ever looked at Hawthorne. You should not have come for the estate, she said. I didn't. Then why are you here? He removed his hat. Rain ran down the back of his coat. He looked nothing like a duke in that moment, only a man who had arrived too late and knew it. I came because I read the ledgers. That is not romantic. Sebastian, no, he said. But it was educational, despite herself. Her mouth moved slightly. He took one step back, not forward, asterisk. He had learned something. At least I came because I found your notes to the tenants, asterisk. Because MRSBELL told me about the winter wages, asterisk. Because I know now that every room I walked through was warm because of you, asterisk, and because I have spent 3 years being grateful when I should have been paying attention. Clara's face remained calm, but her hand tightened on the door. I loved you, she said. The past tense nearly broke him. I know. No, she replied. You know now that is not the same thing. He bowed his head. No, it isn't. For a long moment, there was only wind and rain between them. Then he said, I am not asking you to come back. That surprised her. I am asking permission to write. Clara looked at him then. Really looked. And if I never answer? Then I will have finally learned what waiting feels like. She should have closed the door. A wiser woman might have. Instead, she said, one letter. He nodded. One letter. It took a year, not a week, not a single apology, not one dramatic speech in the rain. A year Sebastian wrote every month, not grand declarations, honest letters. He told her what he sold, what he repaired, what he misunderstood, what he was learning. He told her when the tenants laughed at him for trying to inspect drainage ditches in polished boots. He told her Mrs. Bell had called him less useless than before, asterisk, which he suspected was her highest praise, asterisk. He told her Hawthorne missed her. He did not ask when she would return. That was why she eventually did the following spring. Clara came back to Hawthorne Hall as a guest, asterisk. Sebastian met her at the steps but did not offer his hand until she extended hers, asterisk. The house was smaller now, in some ways, less grand, more honest. The racing stable was gone. The west roof was repaired. The servants looked better fed. The tenants waved from the road at dinner. Sebastian seated her beside him, not at the far end, not as the woman who managed the room, from a distance beside him when the meal ended. He did not thank her for saving Hawthorne. He took her hand and said, I love you, Clara, not because of what you did for this house, because every good thing this house became taught me who you were. She looked at him for a long time. Then she said, That is the first proper thing you have said since we married, he smiled. But his eyes were wet. Then I shall. Try not to waste the second. Clara did not forgive him all at once. Love that has been bruised does not rise simply because it is called, but she stayed 1 week then. Month then through summer, and when autumn returned to Hawthorne, people began to say the Duke and Duchess had finally become a love match. Society enjoyed saying such things, especially when it had been wrong before, but Clara knew better. They had not become a love match at the altar. They had not become one when money saved the estate or gratitude softened into admiration. They became one only after Sebastian learned that a woman is not loved because she is useful, loyal, patient, or necessary. She is loved because she is seen, and at last far later than he should have. The Duke of Hawthorne truly saw his wife. If Clara's story touched your heart, subscribe for more emotional romance stories, arranged marriage dramas, slow burn love, regret, redemption, and unforgettable endings.